Welcome to another review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new twin-stick shooter, CYGNI All Guns Blazing. Before we get started, I want to thank Konami and the developers Keelworks for sending me an early review code. With that out of the way, let's get started with the bad as always for full transparency. This is a very challenging game, and the difficulty does not feel like it's properly defined. Easy feels like medium with 3 lives per level, while medium feels like hard with only 1 life in very demanding circumstances. And to clarify, there is no game mode or game type that gives you any type of continues in this game. Now, things do get easier as you progress through the game, but the first level feels unnecessarily challenging on medium. It's one of the longest levels in the game, and it has 3 bosses to defeat while most of the levels just have 1. I recommend playing on easy and unlocking a couple of upgrades first before attempting higher difficulties. What further added to this for me was the numerous enemies and bosses that were capable of attacking me from the edge of the screen, outside of my immediate field of view. I also noticed that certain enemies and bosses attack from weird angles, oftentimes at odds with the camera. Along with this, I encountered one crash and multiple frame rate dips in the more chaotic sections. While this didn't happen too often, every time it did happen, I found myself at a massive disadvantage because of the level of difficulty I mentioned earlier. Now, this game is locked at 60 frames per second, and most of the gameplay you see on screen here demands that. So any dip you might experience during your playtime will definitely be detrimental to your experience and overall run. I was also underwhelmed with the upgrade system. I was expecting it to be deeper and more expansive. It's a very limited selection of upgrades that require a decent amount of grinding, and many of these upgrades are only available towards the end of the 7-stage campaign. In addition to this, the game fails to explain that you gain upgrade points by collecting energy while your health is full. Once you've completed a stage, all extra energy nodes collected will be transferred into upgrade points. Now, there's a lot that this game does not explain. Now, it does have a tutorial mode, but it's not your traditional tutorial mode. It's very different from the real game, and it's more of a simulation of the real game. It's just very weird how they handled this. And lastly, this game's story feels out of place and poorly constructed. Nothing or no one is properly introduced to the player here. I literally only know the protagonist's name from written interviews despite having played this for days. You're thrust right into the middle of the story, yet you only begin to gain very little context on the main plot halfway through the game. It feels like the main focus here was to vaguely outline the main plot and nothing else. This story is told in a very confusing way, and I honestly don't understand why they even put so much effort into the protagonist. They could have achieved the same thing with any faceless soldier. Alright, now let's transition into the good. This game gives you a number of unique features and abilities that try to keep the formula fresh. For example, you have the energy management system, a core gameplay mechanic that revolves around toggling the transfer of energy between your weapons and shield during combat. This means you can swap your stored shields for missile ammo and vice versa, but this slowly weakens your shields and you're far less durable when your weapons are receiving energy. On top of this, energy pickups won't be added to your missile storage if your shield is receiving energy. This requires you to focus on maintaining a necessary balance between the two, encouraging you to be strategic in your choice of offense or defense as this game constantly tests your adaptability. This game also offers air-to-air and air-to-ground combat, which includes a real-time crowd system allowing players to interact with allied forces on the ground by using an additional weapon that is exclusively for ground units. This might be my favorite feature here. The blending of the two types of combat make for a unique, chaotic experience that forces you to split your attention during combat. In addition to this, you have designer mode, which allows players to create, save, and manage projectile patterns. This is a feature that is available later into the game, and it adds a layer of customization and strategy, giving players the option to toggle between save patterns. I appreciate the effort the developers put into making this game stand out. CYGNI also provides some impressive visuals, running exclusively at 60 frames per second in 4K. And despite being a twin-stick shooter, it still has cutscenes in between levels and high-quality cinematics. The level start transitions are some of my personal favorites here. In addition to this, it also offers an arcade mode, local co-op, and global online leaderboards. In closing, I'm going to give this a 7.5. There's definitely a few compounding flaws here, like the frame rate, upgrade system, and camera angles, but aside from that, this is a solid twin-stick shooter that checks all the right boxes, along with a developer that seems to be committed to fine-tuning and tweaking this game through future updates. Now, one more thing that I did kind of dislike was the fact that some of the levels were a bit too long. Now, there's some levels that are like anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, whereas most levels are around 10 to 11. I think the levels that are 10 to 11 were my personal favorites. Most of the shorter levels felt better to me, but that's just me and my own personal gripe. You guys let me know what y'all think in the comment section. I actually did like this game and I am recommending it. Hopefully y'all check it out. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back with another one. Peace.
Fine soldiers of the Leviathan, I address you on this day not as a captain of the ship, as a proud father, resident of the only place we call home. While the rest of our fleet crumbles, you still stand as a force to be reckoned with. Our forebears did not traverse the stars, braving unforgivable challenges and overcoming sacrifices, only to then be evicted by carcasses and regard us as nothing more than an infestation. There are no negotiations, no ceasefires with this enemy. You will go in, all guns blazing.